France erupted in fury on Thursday as thousands of union workers and pensioners flooded the streets of Marseille, protesting against the 2026 budget draft presented by Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu. The budget also faced the backlash from the opposition leader.
Macronism is cynicism and pettiness in its purest form. Employees should not benefit from what they have produced, especially for food. So they tax the sick, they tax the retirees, but too much is never enough. If we want to reduce the deficit, we will eventually have to tax Bolloré. Quickly a new idea, the students. Really, why not? You said fiscal justice. If the 17 million retirees see their pensions decrease, if all the employees will get fleeced, there's no reason students should be spared.
The demonstrations reflected growing anger over the government's decision to prioritize military spending under NATO and European defense commitments while slashing key social welfare programs. Protesters waved red union flags and carried banners, denouncing what they see as an assault on the country's welfare state, accusing the Macron administration of putting profits before people.
Through measures affecting Social Security, deductibles, then there's the freeze on retirement pensions and public services that are deteriorating considerably. It's a whole system, everything is connected, but above all, it's the tendency to portray retirees as privileged in order to pit them against others, which isn't really the case. They worked just like everyone else. It's a matter of social justice.
The government's plan to cut Social Security and public spending has raised fears of deeper inequality, with critics warning that citizens will face rising healthcare costs and shrinking benefits. Public discontent has been further fueled by Macron's inability to secure a parliamentary majority following last year's snap elections, leaving his austerity measures stranded in political gridlock.
This draft budget will affect us because we retirees are particularly targeted right now. But what I really want to say is, how can a president and his ministers consider us, retirees, former workers who worked for decades, who contributed for decades, as inactive, useless, a burden on society, and yet we have to pay? This is very, very serious for us because it calls into question all the principles of a solidarity-based retirement system. What I would also like to add is the worrying direction of this budget, because targeting public spending means targeting everything related to solidarity, and therefore it will inevitably lead to the collapse of our entire social model based on solidarity. Pensions, healthcare, public services. It means abandoning the welfare state.
Trade unions argue that the draft budget marks a dangerous shift toward privatization and weakens the social solidarity model that has defined France's post-war identity.
The cuts to Social Security represent an increasingly pronounced privatization, with a shift towards private insurance and mutuals. We're going to pay more and more for our health care, and that's a real tragedy for a lot of people and many citizens. The doubling of deductibles and co-payments is becoming extremely neoliberal.
Across major French cities, the protests have become a symbol of resistance against austerity, as retirees, workers, and students unite against what they describe as an economic betrayal. As the unrest intensifies, Macron faces mounting pressure to revise his fiscal strategy and restore public trust, a challenge that could define the remainder of his presidency.